Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Every day, I break down AI news, interview guests, and explain the implications of AI in your life and business. I need to ask you for a big favor. Believe it or not, we have around 92,000 people that listen to this podcast every month, which is absolutely amazing. But when you go to our Apple Podcast or Spotify pages, we only have around 110 reviews total. If you could do me a massive favor and give this podcast a review, I would be super, super grateful. Every time I contact an incredible founder or CEO in AI, they look at the podcast, they look at how many reviews I have, and that helps me to get better guests on the show. So if you could do a huge favor to myself and also yourself, go to the Apple Podcast or the Spotify page, wherever you listen to this, and give a review of the show. If you've noticed lately, I've been doing interviews with some really phenomenal CEOs. I have some more amazing ones coming up in the coming weeks with some CEOs that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for their AI startups. I want to bring these to you and I want to get more of those. So please drop a review, go to your wife's account, go to your husband's account, go to your kid's account and leave a review. I don't care. Help us get more reviews, and I promise I will help bring some amazing AI entrepreneurs and guests onto the show. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. Vector databases are a very crucial storage solution for unstructured data like images, videos, and text. And these are increasingly playing a very pivotal role in the AI landscape. Essentially, these databases power LLMs like GPT-4 that drive ChatGPT, and chiefly due to their kind of they're really powerful in real-time indexing and searching as data emerges or is updated. These functionalities are critical for tailoring features like personalization, recommendation systems, sentiment analysis, and beyond. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about a very interesting company in this space called Marqo. This is an open source vector search engine for AI applications. So let's jump into it. With the escalating interest in generative AI, numerous different vector database startups have emerged as frontrunners. I think just in April, there was Pinecone and Weavable that had significant investments, over $100 million for Pinecone and $15 million for Weaviate. And concurrently, newer entrants like Chroma and Quadrant aren't far behind. I think Chroma was $18 million and Quadrant was $7.5 million in their initial financing rounds. So further, I think the previous year, we saw Zilliz, which is the primary developer for the open source vector database Milvus, and they secured an impressive $60 million in funding. And you know what? Something that's really interesting is I was recently at the AI4 conference in Las Vegas. If you noticed last week, there was a couple days where I did not post a lot of podcast episodes. It's because I was up to my elbows in different conference talks. And while I was there, I spoke to a lot of different AI companies that were on the market, and a lot of the major funded AI companies at that conference were databases and people working on backends and architecture for artificial intelligence. So I think clearly there is a surging demand for companies developing infrastructure to kind of stay ahead of the AI revolution. And a standout among them, I believe, is the Australian startup Marqo, which is creating a very comprehensive pathway to vector search. So Marqo was conceived in Melbourne by its co-founders, Jesse Clark, who previously headed machine learning at Amazon's robotic division, and also Tom Hammer, who is an ex-database software engineer for AWS. The primary challenge Marqo addresses is the intricate world of unstructured data, which as some sources suggest, compromises nearly 90% of all data generated. So the growing reliance on generative AI for varied tasks underscores the imperative need for advanced tools to really navigate this massive data sphere that we're seeing today. So Marqo sets itself apart by offering a very comprehensive suite of vector search capabilities, and they do this straight off of the shelf, which not a lot of other people are doing. So this encompasses vector generation, storage, and retrieval. And this essentially this is integrated, and they're doing this, this approach to essentially allow users to use or get around third-party vector generation platforms from industry players like OpenAI, Hugging Faces, and really consolidating everything into a singular API, which is, if you've asked a lot of these developers working on this, is absolutely game-changing. So Tom Hammer, the CEO of Marqo, he really emphasized the challenges developers face, stating that, quote, "Vector search is difficult to implement. Vector databases are only one part of the puzzle, and developers find it challenging to bring all the required components together to build a vector-based search experience with optimal relevance, latency, and reliability. Marqo provides an end-to-end system that brings all of these components together, solving a major pain point for developers." So I think, moreover, Hammer kind of underlined the importance of the quality of search results. And he said, quote, "If developers want to continually improve relevance of search results, they have to manually train new AI models for vector generation. Marqo's continuous learning technology will allow search to automatically improve based on user engagement," which is absolutely crazy, right? So let's say, they're integrating AI to make really powerful search results, a company is. If they want the most up-to-date relevant information, they need a system that essentially is continuously improving. So it's not like whenever they get around to doing a big new update or training a big new model and pushing it out, they get this one time, right? It's kind of like what we see with ChatGPT, right? It's like ChatGPT has these big pushes where it's like, okay, it's GPT-3, now it's GPT 3.5, now it's GPT-4. Imagine if it wasn't one big push for one big product, but it was just slow incremental improvement every single day. And that's kind of where they think this space should go for, this type of technology and some of the technologies they're working on. So talking about their funding, last year they actually raised an initial $840,000. And in a recent announcement, they just raised another $4.4 million in seed funding. And they really kind of, with this new raise, have hinted at expanded commercial endeavors. So I think this includes a new cloud service, which debuts alongside the pre-existing open source Marqo project. And I think really embracing an open source model, Marqo aims to resonate with the developer community, allowing them the freedom to really customize the product. So Hammer believes that open source development ensures superior product quality. However, he also acknowledges the resource-intensive nature of maintaining open source projects, right? This is not something that's super easy. And, leading to the introduction of Marqo Cloud, which essentially eases the operational burden for users. So while rooted in Australia, Marqo has established a parent company in the UK near its first investor, Creator Fund. And the company has a relatively modest presence in London, which it intends to augment, particularly in sales, marketing, and customer support roles to really fortify its European aspirations. So the recent funding round for Marqo was spearheaded by Australian VC, which is Blackbird Ventures, with notable contributions from Creator Fund, January Capital, and Cohere co-founders Ivan Zhang and Adrian Gomez. And I think just having, the co-founders of a company as prolific as Cohere on board with you really signals the value of your service, the value of the product they're offering. This is going to be a very interesting company to follow in the future and see how they grow.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
Thank you for listening to the AI Chat Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you rate me wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for an innovative group of AI enthusiasts, make sure you check out our Discord channel and also our Facebook community. It's obviously a lot more interactive than a podcast where we can actually share software tools, prompts that we're using in everyday AI. I'll leave a link for those in the description below.